Welcome back to the Professor's Lab. I'm Professor V, and this is round 1 of our league tournament that happened at Die Hard Games on January 9th, 2025. If you didn't know, Die Hard League happens every Thursday at 6 p.m. Central, featuring casual and tournament play of whatever format everyone wants. League Challenge, February 13th at 6 p.m., and League Cup, March 1st at 12 p.m. All Central Time, all at Die Hard Games. Go see more info in this video's description and check out Pokemon's event locator for premiere and other events at the shop, such as League Challenges, League Cups, pre-releases, and more. Please hit that like button right quick, subscribe to this channel, ring the bell for notifications, say what you need to say in the comments, and all that other good free stuff. But anyways, let's research this game. On the left, we have a Lost Zone. On the right, we have Dragapult. Our Dragapult player on the right hand side is going first here with a Radiant Alakazam in the active spot. Not exactly the best starter. Maybe if you can get an energy attached to it as well as a rescue board, I guess just an energy attachment would be good this turn. Would be okay for it this turn, to make up for the start of that 2 retreat Pokemon, who's not an attacker. It's a support Pokemon with its Painful Spoons ability to manipulate damage on the opponent's side of the field if it becomes relevant. Either way, right now we are playing this Nest Ball. That item card allows the player to look through their deck and pluck out a basic Pokemon they find there to add to the bench. Baby Dreepy will be found off of this Nest Ball and added to the bench. This is good, getting down your basic version of your main attacker on turn 1. Psychic Energy actually going to get attached to the Dreepy. We'll figure out how to move the Radiant Alakazam out of the active spot later, pass things over to our opponent. Comfey in the active spot, it uses its flower selecting ability on the left hand side here to look at the top 2 cards of the deck, keep one of them in your hand, and send the other to the Lost Zone. Oh, giving up on that potential one-of copy of Blood Moon Ursaluna here in favor of an energy, I think, because the energy is just as important. They probably think the Blood Moon Ursaluna isn't as relevant in this matchup, especially compared to the other card that was going to be gotten rid of. Next, a Buddy Buddy Poffin is played. That item card allows the player to search their deck for up to 2 basic Pokemon with 70 HP or less to put onto the bench. Double Comfey found off of this Buddy Buddy Poffin and put onto the bench, and we now have triple Comfey established on the board. So we're going to see lots of dancing and cards hitting the Lost Zone this turn, is the plan at least, as they play a basic switch to move a Comfey from the bench into the active spot. It uses its flower selecting ability to look at the top 2 cards of the deck and send a Grass Energy to the Lost Zone in favor of that Stadium Pokestop, I believe. Next, that Pokestop gets put into play. Rescue Board gets attached to the active Pokemon, which allows it to free retreat into the 3rd Comfey, 3rd flower selecting we are seeing here. Remember, looking at the top 2 cards of the deck, keep one of them and send the other to the Lost Zone. Looks like all 3 of them were pretty tough choices for our opponent, or for our player, as they send a Metal Energy to the Lost Zone here. Next is Pokestop. That Stadium card has the player discard the top 3 cards of the deck, and then they put any item cards discarded this way into their hand. What was it? A switch and a switch cart found off of that Pokestop. We'll do an instant replay here in the Professor's Lab today. Yep, switch and switch cart added to the hand. The 3rd card, the Pokestop, is not an item card, so it gets discarded, or it stays in the discard, let's say. 3 flower selectings down. They're definitely looking for that course experiment this turn, but it looks like they are out of luck for that to happen. They debated on playing the Lost Vacuum, but passing overruled everything here, as action resumes over on our opponent's side, or our Dragapult player's side on the right hand side. They bench a Dreepy and then play an Iono. That supporter card has both players shuffle their hands, put them at the bottom of their decks, and then each player draws cards from the top equal to their remaining prize cards. Both players get six cards from the top of the deck here, since they have 6 prize cards remaining currently. More cards to be played in hand for our Dragapult player as they decide what sequence to do things in, what order to do things in. They flipped that Dreepy upside down to show that it was just benched this turn, so it cannot evolve this turn. Of course, a Pokemon has to be in play for at least one turn in order for it to evolve. Next, the Dreepy that was in play already evolves into a Dracloak, and then that Dracloak uses its Recon Directive ability to look at the top 2 cards of the deck, put one into the hand, and send the other to the bottom of the deck. I think it was a rare candy that was kept. Yes. For next turn, potential use next turn in favor of that other card that must not have had any use right now. Buddy Buddy Poffin is played next. Remember, that allows the player to look through their deck for up to 2 basic Pokemon with 70 HP or less to put onto the bench. Maybe one more Dreepy can be found, and if nothing else is better, just the 4th Dreepy, assuming it's not prized. It is good to flood the board with Dreepy in the Dragapult deck, as that Stage 1 Dracloak does provide lots of support. Alright, the 2 Pokemon from the Buddy Buddy Poffin, of course, are the Dreepy and Duskull. Looking okay for our Dragapult player here, with another Nest Ball being played, allowing them to look through their deck to add another basic Pokemon onto their bench. Their bench will be full after this Nest Ball is resolved. The Nest Ball can find a basic Pokemon of any HP to put onto the bench, but our player thinks the best choice here will be the 4th Dreepy. Can they get an energy attachment this turn? Based off of the body language, I'd say no. They're pretty much tapped out for this turn as they pass things over to our Lost Zone player on the left-hand side. And they start things off with a flower selecting, looking at the top 2, sending that Super Rod to the Lost Zone in favor of keeping that Chorus Experiment, which we are seeing played right now. That powerful supporter card has the player look at the top 5 cards of the deck, send 2 cards to the Lost Zone, and keep the other 3. Lots of energy being gotten rid of this game as they send a Pokestop and Psychic Energy to the Lost Zone to keep some very powerful cards. Switch cart being played now to move another Comfey into the active spot for another flower selecting here. Mirage Gate and Cramorant. I keep seeing this Cramorant getting sent to the Lost Zone by this player. In favor of keeping that powerful Mirage Gate card, though. It's going to make things happen once the Lost Zone has 7 cards in it, which it does right now. So free retreat thanks to the rescue board into the 3rd Comfey. 3rd flower selecting sends a Roxanne to the Lost Zone, keeping that water energy off of this 3rd flower selecting here. Nest Ball is played next. Hollow League Nest Ball, in order to search the deck for a basic Pokemon to put onto the board, and that Radiant Greninja is finally established. We are definitely in Moonlight Shuriken range here. Good thing our Dragapult player set up plenty of Dreepy / Dracloak. Let's Radiant Greninja joins the party on the bench here. Will we see its ability used? It's got a great ability, it's got a great attack, water energy attached to that Radiant Greninja now. Then it uses its ability, concealed cards, discard an energy card to draw 2 more cards from the top of the deck. And yeah, we're seeing Moonlight Shuriken here as Mirage Gate is played. That item card can be played when there are 7 or more cards in the Lost Zone. When it's played, you search your deck for 2 different basic energy cards and accelerate them to your Pokemon in any way you like. I think we're going to see this water energy and lightning energy be accelerated to this bench Radiant Greninja here. The switch cards already in hand to get the Radiant Greninja in the active spot and attacking. So our player needs to decide if they want to use the Pokestop or not this turn. They have everything they need already for an attack, so we don't need to play the Pokestop, but they could continue to cycle their deck with it as well, since their deck is built to use this powerful or disappointing stadium. We'll see what they decide to do next as they switch into the Radiant Greninja. And looks like they're deciding who the targets of Moonlight Shuriken will be. Radiant Greninja's attack, Moonlight Shuriken, you discard 2 energy from the Greninja, and you deal 90 damage to 2 of your opponent's Pokemon. I think I like this here. Take out the Dracloak and the Duskull on the bench for the first 2 prize cards of the game. As action continues on our Dragapult right-hand side, with a Duskull being put onto the bench as the first action for the turn. The replacement, the Avenging Duskull, being established here. With this Radiant Alakazam with 2 retreat costs being stuck in the active spot. To be fair, the Dragapult player has not established just that, a Dragapult to start attacking. It's got arguably one of the best attacks in the game in that Phantom Dive, but we've got to get it online first. Ultra Ball being played now, going down to a 0-card hand, discarding 2 cards to pay for the cost of Ultra Ball in order to search the deck for a Pokemon, Basic or Evolution. Actually, I think they've got a 1-card hand with that face-down card on the bench there. Ultra Ball ends up finding that Dragapult EX. I think Rare Candy, was the last card in hand. Rare Candy allows the Dreepy to skip the middle evolution and evolve straight away into that Dragapult EX, but nothing else to do but pass, sadly. There was a Pokestop that could have been spun there. They either forgot or decided they didn't want to accidentally discard cards that they don't want to see be discarded. Pass things back over to our Lost Zone player on the left-hand side here, and they start things off with a Course Experiment. Remember, looking at the top 5 cards of the deck, keep 3 of them and send 2 to the Lost Zone. I think we can send that Buddy Poffin to the Lost Zone. Probably the Lost Vacuum as well. The Lost Vacuum could be good to keep, since that can get rid of the Ace-Spec Sparkling Crystal on the other side of the table, but it just depends on what the other 3 cards were. You know, 2 things have to get sent to the Lost Zone. So it will be the Lost Vacuum and Buddy Poffin this time. We've got plenty of cards in the Lost Zone, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I think that's the last threshold to be met in this Lost Zone deck with that Sableye attack, if we see it this game. Still good to send things to the Lost Zone with Chorus and Comfey, as it helps you draw through your deck, at the cost of course, sending cards to the Lost Zone, but as the game progresses, you know which cards you need and which ones you don't in order to close out the game. So next is a Nest Ball from our Lost Zone player on the left, searching their deck for a basic Pokemon to put on to the bench, but no target is selected here. just wanting to thin that card out of the deck, take a look at what's in the deck and ensure that nothing else is in there that needs to hit the board right now. Maybe all their relevant basic Pokemon are in hand currently, as a Mirage Gate is played next. Remember, there are more than 7 cards in the Lost Zone, so that card can accelerate 2 different basic energy from the deck, 2 Pokemon on their side of the field in any way they like, and I think we're just going in for 2 more prize cards with another Moonlight Shuriken here. Water and grass energy will be accelerated from the deck to, I'm sure, that Radiant Greninja in the active spot, powering up its Moonlight Shuriken attack once again. Just pick apart the board across from it. Doesn't look like there's anything else. Oh, that player actually wants to spin the Pokestop. They actually get rid of a Chorus Experiment here, sadly for them, but maybe won't be punished by it too much with how far they will be ahead in this game. But 2 more items hit off of that Pokestop. Rescue Stretcher and Night Stretcher, excuse me, and Super Rod, I think. Next is Lost Vacuum being played. Lost Vacuum has a player send a card from their hand to the Lost Zone in order to send a Stadium in play or Tool in play to the Lost Zone. Their own Pokestop was targeted here to be sent to the Lost Zone in order to, most importantly, deny the opponent's use of it to cycle through their deck and progress their board state, not giving their opponent any outs here. As Moonlight Shuriken on that Radiant Greninja is being used now to deal 90 damage to a benched Duskull and Dreepy for 2 more prize cards there. And our Dragapult player is just dead drawing here. Draw and pass. The Lost Zone player has to take 2 prize cards from that double KO there. I'm sure they'll catch it here shortly. The Lost Zone player on the left should have 2 prize cards remaining in this game after the Dragapult player just drew and pass for their last turn. Hate to see it, but that's what happens in the Pokemon trading card game sometimes. As a switch card is played, moving a benched Comfey with the rescue board into the active spot, so it can use a flower selecting to look at the top 2, sending a Hisuian Heavy Ball to the Lost Zone and keeping that Mirage Gate. Let's see, they still have to take their 2 prize cards. I think they may be figuring that out now. Awesome. How can they take their last 2 prize cards this turn? I don't think they can. So a Super Rod will shuffle back into the deck, double Water and Grass from the discard pile, reloading the deck with that energy so it can be pulled out with the Mirage Gate when the time comes. I wonder who maybe a Sableye would be the best attacker here, as the Comfey free retreats thanks to the rescue board into the Radiant Greninja once again, so maybe that's just our attacker for this turn. This works as well. Either way, a prize card is taken as another Mirage Gate is played to accelerate a Grass energy and Water energy from the deck to, I'm sure, that Radiant Greninja in the active spot. And then the Radiant Greninja will mostly use its Moonlight Shuriken attack to deal 90 damage to the active Radiant Kazam, as well as the bench Dreepy, taking the KO on the bench. But we'll see what our player actually does here. Yep, just that. 90 to the active, 90 to the Dreepy on the bench for the KO on it. Radiant Alakazam is within KO range of another Moonlight Shuriken or Lost Mine next turn. As our Dragapult player draws a card for their turn, I don't think they can play any of those cards in their hand, so they just pass things back over and give the game to our Lost Zone player, it seems. They see the writing on the wall here. Looks like they're probably going to play it out for the camera here as our Lost Zone player plays a Nest Ball in order to search their deck for a basic Pokemon to put onto the bench. Nothing targeted here, they just want to look at what's in the deck in order to better orchestrate closing out this game. Yep, we've got the Sableye in hand. That hits the bench now. Sableye has the Lost Mine attack for 1 Psychic Energy, which is recovered from the discard pile with the Night Stretcher. The Radiant Greninja can retreat into the Sableye, and then the Sableye has the Lost Mine attack. When there are 10 or more cards in the Lost Zone, you can use the Lost Mine attack to place 12 damage counters on your opponent's side of the field as you'd like. So, all of them could go on to the Radiant Alakazam for the last prize of the game. What do you think of this video and the commentary? Please leave feedback in the comments. Like this video, subscribe to this channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time in the Professor's Lab.